First, we have to define what is modern masculinity. Well, it's kind of fucked right now. Welcome. In today's video, we're gonna cover modern masculinity and tips that can help you as a single man, especially in a metropolitan area, set yourself apart from the competition. The word modern masculinity in and of itself is kind of under bombardment right now. Being masculine is absolutely something as men that you need to do in order to attract and keep a high caliber woman. However, masculinity almost has a negative connotation to it. First of all, there's traditional masculinity and then there's modern masculinity. So let's talk about the differences between the two. Traditional masculinity is pretty much chivalry, guy pays for everything. Women have somewhat of a secondary say, and it lacks a little bit of emotional understanding or EQ. Modern masculinity is more understanding, but it's a little simpering, it's a little pandering, it's a little weak-boned. What I'm proposing is that we take the best of each and leave the others behind. So what does that look like? What we take from traditional masculinity is the courage to lead. On a first date, offer to pick a girl up. She doesn't have to say yes, but offer it anyway. That'll help you stand out. Each date, it's an opportunity to learn about yourself, to learn about what you want. A lot of guys going into dating think they know what they want, but they don't know what they want until they've had a ton of repetitions. It took me 54 dates to nail down my non-negotiables, and that was after being married for 5 years and then getting divorced and moving to a new city. Take from traditional dating the idea of leading. This doesn't mean that you are a dictator. This means that you have the courage to take action and you let the woman either accept your invitation or decline it, and you're okay with either outcome. A lot of times as guys, we think we need to manipulate the outcome. That is a grave error. We just need to take radical action. And when you're taking action, do so swiftly, give yourself grace for errors or things that you couldn't account for, and follow your intuition. Every time you ignore your instinct, you're gonna pay for it later, especially in dating, especially when it comes to the things that you desire. So what are some of the good things from modern masculinity? Well, we do need to know what women want. We need to be able to ask questions and understand their feelings. It doesn't mean that we can't have our own opinions. It doesn't mean that we have to pander to them. What it means is we meet them halfway. A good man knows how to compromise. If you want to be right, you can be right, but that's traditional masculinity, and the women that you're seeking or in a relationship with won't appreciate it very much. If you can hold firm to your values, but put yourself in their shoes and empathize, you can do both. I know it sounds crazy, but you really can do both. You can share your opinion and your ideals without having a weak spine, and then see and meet her where hers are at. And what's crazy about this, and this is not a manipulation thing, over time, I believe that if you're so certain about something so important to you, you don't have to convince or convert her in the moment, especially on a first date. Over time, a woman will see if you're consistent and your actions line up with your words, that there is value in what you believe. So don't come out of the gates trying to convert her. Come out of the gates with firm opinions, but soft understandings. And then if you continue to date this girl, she'll see the merit in you and your beliefs further on. This is the upside with combining the best of modern masculinity and the best of tradition. You have the structure and the foundation to lead and be powerful enough to have tough conversations and even help women when things are precarious. But you also have the EQ and the understanding to facilitate compromises. Any girl that's a high caliber woman is going to see that you can do both. And it's gonna really appreciate that you're multifaceted enough and that you're proficient enough with each of those modalities. So now that we've kind of covered the conceptual part, let's get really granular. I threw out a few examples before. Let me give you some more examples on what this really looks like. I thought I was gonna be damaged goods when I was in the dating world, but I loved my job. I was working out, I was healthy, I was in a good mindset. I believe that you need to get all those things dialed down. That will enable you to pull the best of traditional masculinity, where you have structure, you have some financial freedom, you have mental health locked down, you have a mission greater than the relationship, and then you can charge confident into approaching women and taking women on dates because you have all these things. It's almost like it's your fuel, it's supplying you. So if you get rejected once in a while, or you have a weird date, or you spend some resources on a date that doesn't go well, it doesn't get to you because you know that at the end of the day, you can go back to this life where you're investing your health and you love it, whatever that activity may be, where you're confident about your mission going forward, whether or not you get into a relationship. Every woman, whether they'll admit it or not, needs to have a man whose mission is greater than the relationship. Now, that doesn't mean you overlook her, but in the traditional lens, it means that there's something greater than her, something greater than you, and something greater than you all together. And that is what really, really magnetizes a woman. So, on a first date, don't be afraid to share these things that you're passionate about. You don't want to monopolize the conversation, but you do want to give her tidbits of who and how you are. A woman's intuition is so powerful. So if you're talking about something you're passionate about, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be something where you're like saving lives or a firefighter rescuing a kitten from a tree. If you're passionate about it and it's appropriately placed in conversation, a woman will want to hear about it. Oftentimes we feel like we have to be something in order for women to be magnetized to us. That's not true. You do not need to be anything other than who you are. There is a woman of high caliber, of beauty, and of partnership for each man out there if you're willing to turn over enough stones. And part of that is making sure that you can present yourself exactly how you are, to be unabashedly yourself. That comes from traditional masculinity, having that kind of confidence, that self-assuredness of knowing that I like my life and here is my life. And you can inspect it and I'll share it all with you and I can be 100% radically transparent. Women love that shit because there's too many guys out there today that don't have enough of the benefits of traditional masculinity. And if they do, they're often assholes because they have all of it, not just the good and the bad. Take just the good and you'll set yourselves apart. Outside of being powerfully yourself and unabashedly yourself without being too much of an asshole, be sure to ask questions. A lot of guys will either just listen too much or talk too much. And I'm not saying that there's an exact scenario where you need to listen 40% and talk 60%. I don't know the split, and to do so would be somewhat ambiguous if I were to give you a number. What I can say is ask her questions that you genuinely want to know. Don't make it an interview. Add some flirty stuff in there, right? Because at the end of the day, a woman is gonna want to see that you can be sincere, that kind of traditional masculinity. But they also want to see that you can be silly and lighthearted and fun, especially if it's a first date. You can do that by toggling between both, right? For instance, I sat down on a date and I could tell a girl was really nervous. So I was like, oh, I can't just dive into the super deep things. I need to make sure I bring her out of her shell. So there's something that had happened earlier that day. I think I stepped in dog poop while I was on a walk, and how even though I washed it off, the smell was with me everywhere. And we're about to eat and that seems really gross, but I was laughing about it. I was like, you know, I've been looking forward to this date all day, but something shitty happened to me. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I literally stepped in dog poop. And so she laughed because of the pun. And I love puns, so I didn't do the pun for her. I did it for me and for her. And then I told her the story of how the smell had been following me all around all day. And then when I finally sat down to have dinner with her, it's like all of a sudden it went away. So then the joke became that she had like some sort of woman perfume smelling bubble that was pushing away the dog poop that had been following me around. Okay, sounds super childish, right? And gross, but she's like out of her shell now. She's laughing, she's giggling. And then I asked her a question, and it's not the normal small talk. I hate small talk. And so my big takeaway for you in terms of conversation is don't be afraid to ask what you're genuinely interested in, especially if you could spin it to be playful as well as informative in terms of her giving an answer that tells you something about her. The thing that has helped me up-level the most across all arenas, all different realms of life, has been being single and going on 54 first dates in a year after being married and divorced and feeling like I was damaged goods, because it forced me to reconcile these things within myself. I think a lot of guys, and this is part of the problem with modern masculinity, including who I used to be, are too simpering, too pandering, and they're recovering nice guys. And it comes from a good place. We want to help the people around us. We want to be kind to the people around us. We want to be accommodating. We want to have a high EQ. The problem is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So the nicest thing you can do, the kindest thing you can do, and the most efficient that you can do is be honest. This transparency goes with the same thing at the end of the first date. If a woman says, and this is gonna be super controversial, if a woman says, hey, I had a great time, will I see you again? If you don't want to see her again, tell her. This is where the traditional masculinity comes back into play. If you are too much of the modern man, you're not gonna have the balls to tell her the truth. However, if you're too much of the traditional man, you can be hurtful when you do it. So here's the happy medium. At the end of the first date or after the first date, never ghost a woman. Always close the loop, because that is the kindest thing you can do for you and for them. It will enable you to protect your energy, your attention, and your integrity, as well as theirs. And think about it, the other way around doesn't feel great to be ghosted or stood up on a date either. So why would you do those things if you don't believe that they should happen to you? You can ensure that integrity is intact by always just telling the truth in a kind way that doesn't dodge the question. So for example, at the end of a first date, let's say that you really did enjoy your date with this woman and she's like, well, I see you again. Tell her, I had a great time with you. I would like to see you again. Or if you don't want to go on another date with this girl, say, you know what? I enjoyed getting to know you. And honestly, right now, I'm not so sure. Let me sleep on it. And this gives you an opportunity to step away and think about it. The common mistake with that is guys will often leave the loop open and never close the loop. This is honestly one of the most unkind things you can do. So you've told this girl the honest truth in the most kind way possible. And that's when the conversation goes well. Those conversations are gems. You will realize once you've had one, how great it feels to close the loop, to be kind to her, to be efficient with your own attention and resources as well as hers. Once you try it, please let me know. Or if you do this, please comment below. I'd love to hear stories about this, because I think not only does it keep you from causing unnecessary pain in her life and your life, it helps the dating world so much because of how much toxicity is going around, how much ghosting, how many people who can't even say what's on their minds that they need to say that would just close these loops. Think about it this way. We believe when we go on a first date or even a couple dates with a girl that this is something just between us and them. That's not true. You live in a community, word spreads, and also your consciousness can be impacted by how you choose to handle a situation. If you accrue all of these dates where you didn't act with an integrity, that weighs in your soul, and you are not going to be able to secure a high caliber woman. They can sense that. And again, word travels fast. I live in Austin. I was dating here for a year. The number of people I went on a first date with that know my girlfriend or my friends or anything like that is all of them. All of them. And it's not a small city. Yes, it's not New York or whatnot, but I grew up in a town that had 5,000 people in it. This is over 1 million people, and the circles are so interconnected. So don't assume that you have this safety blanket of anonymity to protect you from not dating with integrity. It's absolutely not true. Word gets around, girls talk, plus you're spineless if you don't have the ability to be unabashedly yourself and the courage to have honest conversations that are hard. You will develop more as a man. You will acquire a better woman who knows that you acted that way when you were searching for her and respects the hell out of you for that. But in conclusion, take the best of traditional masculinity, where you lead, you take radical action, you have conviction, but take the best of modern masculinity, where you ask good questions, you're open, you understand, and you're empathetic, as well as compassionate. And when you combine these things together, you should be exactly who you are and not the representative of yourself. I think that's enough to chew on today. I appreciate you watching. Share this if it resonated, comment if you want to know anything else from me on this, or if you disagree with any of these ideas, I'll be happy to discuss them further. I plan to share a lot more ideas and opinions and tips here soon. See y'all later. I'm gonna get better at those. Thank you.